Rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do a roll call. Alderman Blank. Here. Alderman Bocart. Absent. Alderman O.
Here.
Alderman Bell. Absent. Alderman Wilson.
Here.
And Alderman Lewis. Here. Can I get a motion to approve April 4th, 2023 meeting minutes, please?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Special items, a resolution declaring the results of the general election held in the city of Ashland, Missouri, April 4th, 2023. This should make a motion to approve it.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Do we need a roll call vote, or can we just all in one?
You're good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Next special item, city clerk to swear in officers, Alderman Bocart, Alderman Bell, and Alderman Wilson. We will postpone that till later on until meeting, till Ms. Bell gets here. Okay. Moving on to appointments and boards commissions. A resolution appointing city staff, board liaisons, and members to certain boards and commissions. Tonight we'll be appointing Alderman Plank to the ABC Commission as liaison. Be reappointing Tracy Banning to Parks and Recs, and reappointing Elizabeth Subzak to Parks and Recs, and appointing Hannah Kiddo to Parks and Recs. And there's no other appointments for.
You'll be reappointing Melissa to Park and Rec Board Liaison. You have
And then
Mr. Rick for
And Rick for P&Z. All right. We need a motion to do all those.
Yeah, we just included them all in one resolution, so we're not going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 different appointments.
I get a motion appointing all those people to the boards.
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Scheduled public comments, I see none. Just a reminder, scheduled public comments will be into the city clerk by Wednesday before the meeting date. Public hearing, I see none. Introductions and first readings. Council Bill number 2023-010, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a wastewater operation and maintenance agreement with Boone Regional Sewer District. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Before you this evening, we have a renewal option for our contract with Boone County Regional Sewer District. They currently are the contract operators that handle our sewer, the wastewater division, management thereof, and the required licensure. Working with BCRSD are two city staffers, Connor Blagg, who recently obtained his Class C license, and Logan Davidson, who recently transferred to the sewer division from the streets division. Over the past year, we've been under contract with BCRSD, and things have went very well. We've received no warning letters from Department of Natural Resources. We have made several steps forward in maintenance and improvements to the system, replacement of existing line, and we're also working towards the expansion of the plant and renewal of our DNR discharge permit, along with looking at some other cost-saving measures that we can implement over the next several years. The contract before you does have a slight increase, as did everything this year, regarding labor, but there were no increase in cost for equipment. City engineer John Conway, along with treasurer Shelley Martin, and I have went through this contract and verified that the funding does work and can be allocated out of wastewater funds. It is my recommendation that we renew this contract with BCRSD.
Any questions for James? None? Since this is first reading, we'll need to do a motion, correct?
Motion, yep.
Can I get a motion approving Council Bill number 2023-010, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a wastewater operation and maintenance agreement with BCRSD?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Wade?
Aye.
Motion carries. Council Bill number 2023-011, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the city of Ashland, Missouri by annexing unincorporated area, directing the city clerk to give notice of the annexation, SMARS annexation. Staff report.
We had our public hearing at our last meeting. We've passed the protest period to move forward with this annexation for 0.77 acres. You'll find in your staff packet, or in your council packet, the findings memo. Staff finds that this piece of property is contiguous and compact and is adjacent to existing city property or properties within the city limits. We find it necessary and reasonable as it conforms to our future land use map and comprehensive plan, and we do have the ability to provide services to this property. It'll be annexed in as agricultural zone property until such time as the ownership brings forward a rezoning request.
Any questions for staff, please? I get a motion approving Council Bill number 2023-011, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the city of Ashland, Missouri, by annexing unincorporated area, directing the city clerk to give notice of the annexation, SMART annexation.
I'll make the motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
And Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Motion carries. Council Bill number 2023-012, an ordinance approving East Ashland Plaza Lot 13 and 14 replat. Staff report, please.
The purpose of this replat is to divide lot 14 into two lots, creating lots 14A and 14B. The owner of the property is Corey Myers Construction, and the submitting engineering firm is Engineering Surveys and Services, which there's a representative here if you have any questions. The city engineer, John Conway, performed the review. This lot is approximately 1.53 acres in size. Lot 14A will be approximately 1.05 acres, and 14B 0.48 acres. This parcel is on the southeast corner of Route Y, known as East Broadway and Industrial Drive. It is currently zoned CG, General Commercial. The intent of this minor subdivision is to create an additional commercial lot to allow for future development by the owner yet to be determined. Industrial Drive will provide access to lot 14A and 14B. There will be a 30-foot wide ingress-egress easement. This easement will also cut a 20-foot by 60-foot section out of the northwest corner of lot 13 to the south. Additionally, there is a 20-foot utility easement on the north end of the parcel. So staff recommends approval of the minor subdivision replat of lot 14, East Ashland Plaza, as it has met the requirements of the city code, and this was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 11th.
Any questions for staff?
With lot 14B being half an acre, I mean, is that big enough for them to develop something on that?
That is yet to be determined. So is it? Yes. Something very small? Yes. So nothing has been proposed at this point, so we don't know. It has been pointed out to the owner that it is sizably small, so.
I'm just concerned that we're approving this and then nothing's gonna be able to happen with it because it's too small.
Well, it's small enough that you may not even notice.
Good point.
I think,
Don't hold back what you really think.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Corey Berthold, Engineering Surveys and Services. Yeah, it is a smaller lot, but I think there is potential uses for the lot. I think we all saw what went in with scooters and on even smaller lot on the corner there. So there's potential uses. Access would be across the existing driveway that would be built over lot 14A. So, yeah, the lot is on the smaller side. I think there also has been potential discussions of purchasing additional land to the east, but nothing finalized at this point. It's my understanding that the current situation, the potential purchaser for that lot 14A wasn't wanting the entire lot, wasn't wanting to purchase that entire lot. So that's the purpose for this plat. So happy to answer any other questions.
You have a question, sir?
I had the same question she did.
All right, any other questions? No? Can I get a motion approving Council Bill number 2023-012, an ordinance approving East Ashland Plaza lots 13 and 14 replat? Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Nay.
And Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Council Bill number 2023-013, an ordinance approving McDowell subdivision plat number 2. Staff report, please.
So the purpose of this replat is to divide lot 2 and 3 into 4 lots, creating lots 2A, 2B, and 3A, and 3B. The owner of this property is Hills and Valleys LLC, and the submitting firm is Brush and Associates, which there is a representative here tonight. The city engineer, John Conway, performed the review. Currently, lot 2 is approximately 19.6 acres in size. Lot 2A will be approximately 11.73 acres, and 2B 7.87 acres. Currently, lot 3 is approximately 16.4 acres in size. Lot 3A will become 5.4 acres, and 3B 11 acres. The McDowell subdivision is on East Hayes Road, south of Lakeside, and East La Providence Road, and west of Highway 63, and currently zone CG. The intent of this subdivision is to create additional commercial lots, allowing for future development by the owner yet to be determined. Hayes Road will provide access to lot 2 and 3. There will be a 50-foot wide access easement and 20-foot utility easement that runs on the north side of lot 3A. These easements run to the east and south to provide access and utilities to lots 2B and 3B. Staff recommends approval of the minor subdivision replat of lots 2 and 3 of the McDowell subdivision, as it has met the requirements of the city code and was conditionally approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday, April 11th. The condition is that the easements be legally deeded before final approval by the board. Now, this is the first read for this one, and the easements have been deeded, but there was a hiccup with that. John reviewed it, and some of the legal description wasn't right, so they're going to do an affidavit to correct that. So that should be done before
The second.
the second.
It's actually already done.
Oh, you got it done today?
Recorded the affidavit this afternoon,
So it is done. So all conditions have been met?
so I have it here if you want.
That'd be great.
Any questions?
So any questions?
I'll talk to you about it later. Perfect. I'll talk to you about it tomorrow.
Sounds like
No, it's a rest.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion approving Council Bill number 2023-013, an ordinance approving McDowell subdivision plat 2?
Motion?
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Nay.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
And Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Moving on to Council Bill number 2023-014, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2023 budget. Staff report, please.
So this is the first of 3 separate issues that I have on the agenda. This one pertains to the park. We're doing budget amendments for the changes in revenue and expenditures for fiscal year '23. The decrease in the fund balance at the close of the fiscal year is due to not receiving reimbursement for the Park Ball Field project from the LWCF grant. We estimate that the first reimbursement will arrive sometime in May or June, and I believe that James will have the second reimbursement in shortly after May 1st, and so hopefully that will be in also by maybe July or August. The short-term impact is that we've done our due diligence in reporting the shortfall in revenue as required by law. Long-term, no impact as we will see the LWCF reimbursements during the next fiscal year. It is recommended that the Board of Aldermen approve the ordinance. Not passing the ordinance would put the city in a position of not complying with State Statute 67. Requires that each political subdivision is prohibited from expending public monies unless those expenditures have been authorized as approved by Chapter 67. So unfortunately, the LWCF, they have the first reimbursement request in. This is a more time-consuming process than maybe we all originally anticipated. The turnaround is not as expedient as we would like. You're allowed to submit 4 reimbursements. I believe we will only have 2, as the Park Ball Field project is almost completely done. And so we should have everything in by the next fiscal year. And I'm planning on meeting with the park board at the next meeting to go over that with them.
So, so we'll be spending out of the fund balance.
Yes. But
So
we'll,
when the reimbursement comes in, that will go back into the fund balance.
it'll show as an additional revenue. So what I did this year for, just for informational purposes, for the park fund. So if you recall last year, we passed an ordinance for a 60-40 split between park and stormwater, and that is expired. So we'll be going back to a 50-50. That was only for 1 year. So when we migrated over to the new software, we have the revenue line for the park tax to go in, which is 50% of what we receive in monthly. And then I did an additional revenue line for reimbursements and or donations. Now, we did not receive any donations this year for the park. The city did not receive any. Friends of the city did, but the city itself. And what that means is that sometimes we have businesses who rent the pavilions during the summertime for their group meetings, and they will donate something for the use of those pavilions to the city because they're using the utilities and doing that, but we have not seen that this last fiscal year or the year prior, and we have no requirement that anybody do a donation for those expenses. But I changed that fund line to include reimbursements and donations, so we would have something separate to go with project accounting for reimbursements, especially for this grant. So we would know exactly how much is coming in. But yes, we'll be spending it, they have plenty of money, so we'll be spending it out of fund balance, but then it'll be reimbursed next fiscal as a revenue coming in. So, and the trick with that is that, it won't be a revenue that James will, or the park board will be counting on to spend. It's a revenue just for the reimbursement of that project.
Any other questions for staff?
There's not a chance that they end up not paying, is there?
It's just a process.
Yeah, it's a process.
A lot of those agencies are short-staffed right now, so I'm sure that's contributing to it as well.
And I really don't ever count on any type of reimbursements coming back that, you know, in a timely manner. If something comes back in a month turnaround, that's great, but usually it's 3 to 6 months.
Just wait till we do very end.
The big hurdle was getting it approved in the first place.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion to approve Council Bill number 2023-014 and ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2023 budget?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Ode?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Moving on, Council Bill number 2023-015, an ordinance to amend Chapter 10, Planning and Zoning Subdivisions Building of the City of Ashland Code.
Yeah, we postponed it.
We postponed it. Take it away.
Okay.
Staff report, please.
All right, so this is, as you may recall, last year, we switched to using the ICC valuation tables to get a more accurate cost description of the permit. So it basically linked the square footage to a set fee, whereas in the previous year, it was just determined by whatever someone put on the permit was the estimated cost of construction. So this leveled the playing field, but in doing that, and we anticipated a little adjustment being necessary. So the original fee multiplier for the permits was 0.005. So then last year, we moved it down to what we thought was appropriate, which was 0.0025, or 0.25%. So we have discovered throughout last year that we needed to raise it up because the building permits were coming in at a lower rate than we anticipated. So we intend to make it 0.003, which is 0.3% now. So it's not a huge move, but also in that, there was an adjustment in the ICC valuation tables because they update those on a periodic basis. And in the ordinance last year, we said those would be updated whenever available, when the permits would adjust on May 1st of every fiscal year. So they did make an adjustment in the valuation per square foot. So last year it was $150.87 for the valuation. And this year it has gone up to $167.37 per square foot. So with that, I had to adjust the multiplier down a little from what I anticipated at the budget workshop. So that is what I've done. And this is to basically justify the department, and it covers 100% of the department's budget. So I wanted to make it an appropriate amount where it wasn't too high for just excess funds. So it is recommended, hopefully, that the board approves the permit fee multiplier adjustment for fiscal year 23.
Any questions?
Do you know how many permits projected will be, what is your thinking on how many permits with this year?
So it's a hard guess. I was guessing roughly half as many as last year, but in January and February, that was coming to fruition, but then in March, there were 10 permits pulled, which was really good, but out of scale. So my window is between 30 to 50, maybe 60 on the high end, where last year I believe it was 78 total for the year. So.
Okay.
And I also sent a memo to the builders for all this information, because I didn't want anybody to be blindsided, and I've gotten numerous calls already. So.
Complaining?
No, just asking questions about it.
Okay.
There were some complaining, but
What was their biggest concern?
just increased costs, everybody trying to take money out of the pocket, which is true, but, that's just life. So.
Thanks. Can I get a motion approving Council Bill number 2023-015, an ordinance to amend Chapter 10, Planning and Zoning Subdivision Building of the City of Ashland Code?
I'll make the motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
And Alderman Plank.
Aye.
Moving on to old business. Ordinance number 14 14131, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2023 budget.
So these are additional, I did some additional budget amendments to the fiscal year 23 budget, most of it to the fund lines that support salaries. I did that for a couple different reasons. One is we had some people that worked overtime, not really sure who's doing what until I actually get payroll, did not want to violate Chapter 67, and did not want to have a emergency meeting to pass another ordinance for overspending on a fund. So I padded those lines to make sure that when I did payroll today, everything would go through and we could basically close out the fiscal year today because there's no more spending after today. So I did that. Also, I added the ordinance that we passed last year, ordinance number 1403, where we approved the authorization of transfer of the $50,000 from court to police and the authorization to transfer $404,200.32 of the ARPA money from general to capital funds. The reason that I did that is that if you reviewed the budget report that I put in there, you'll see that the ending balance on page 4 for general revenue is a negative $366,599.78, and that is due to that transfer. And that's why I included that ordinance. That ordinance will be included in our audit reports as well to show that it was something that everybody was aware of and approved. Same goes for the court fund, and then we just went over the ordinance for the park fund. The budget overall for fiscal year 23 was really good. Congratulate your department heads. They did a really good job as far as monitoring their budgets and talking about what they needed to spend or what they could spend. So I think overall it ended up really, really well.
Any questions for staff? Can I get a motion approving Council Bill number 1431, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal year 2023 budget?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Ode?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Moving on. Excuse me. Ordinance number 1434, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal 2023 budget.
That actually needs to be ordinance 1433, and then 1433 on section D in your agenda should be 1434. So 1433 is the ordinance authorizing the expenditures from the park as expenditures exceeded revenues. I did want to mention that I didn't mention before, I padded this number a little bit too, because again, I did not know where we were going to stand as far as salaries. So we did not overspend by 20,000. It was more close to 17.9. But still wanted to cover our bases, still wanted to stay in compliance.
Any questions? Can I get a motion approving ordinance number 1433, an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds to certain accounts within the fiscal 2023 budget?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderwoman Ode?
Aye.
And Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Moving on, ordinance number 1432, an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2023, and appropriating funds to present therefore.
So this is your actual fiscal year 24 budget. If you did notice in some of the expenditure lines and the revenue lines, we did some adjusting from the first reading, just simply because we've gotten some additional information. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I did create fund lines for the law enforcement and street tax that passed earlier. I did not put a budget in there, and the reason that I did not put a budget in there is that it could be 6 to 8 months before we see anything. And 6 to 8 months is not really, from now, only leaves us with maybe a month or two worth of taxes coming in, so really not a good indication of how much is going to be brought in by that passing. So we'll do a budget amendment closer to the end of the year so we can see at least what those couple months did bring in, and then we can estimate from there for the next fiscal year. And did anybody have any questions? Reference it.
Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 1432, an ordinance adopting the annual budget for fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2023, and appropriate the funds?
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderwoman Old?
Aye.
Alderwoman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis? Ordinance number 1434, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a wastewater operation and maintenance agreement with VCR. Staff report, please. Please, announce your name and where you live.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, my name is James Creel, I live in Columbia. This is just a reiteration of the presentation earlier regarding the renewal of New Canaan Regional Sewer District contract.
Can I get a motion to approve ordinance number 1434, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a wastewater operation and maintenance agreement with VCRSD?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
Moving on, ordinance number 1435, an ordinance amending chapter 10, planning and zoning subdivision building of the city of Ashland code.
This is just a second read of the adjustment of the fee multiplier, so I should see that conclusion, opposition.
Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 1435, an ordinance to amend chapter 10, planning and zoning subdivision and building of the city of Ashland code?
I'll make the motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
And Alderman Plank.
Aye.
Going to new business, a resolution authorizing the purchase of ballistic vest for the police department.
So, up for discussion is the purchase of 3 ballistic vests for the police department, and that purchase would be officially made after or on May 1st. And I'm gonna go ahead and read through this here since not everybody out in live feed land has access to this, but so our department policy requires all uniformed police officers to wear custom fitted bullet resistant vests. Not only is this common sense in police work, but it's a requirement for our participation in the federal bulletproof vest program, which provides funds to reimburse our department for the expenses of these vests. So what I'm asking for is approval to purchase a vest for our newest hire, Lane Wilson, who's still in the academy. Additionally, we've got 2 officers who are currently wearing expired vests, one of which is Ali Leva, whose vest expired in March of this year, and Sergeant Andrew Worrell, whose department issued vest expired in 2020, but due to funds has been wearing a personally owned vest, which expired the end of 2022. The vest, what we're looking to purchase is the actual soft armor itself. The most officers choose, at least with us, we give the option of wearing a rifle rated plate that goes down in the vest too, that protects officers from rifle rounds, which your traditional concealable body armor doesn't do. And it's lightweight enough that you can wear it for patrol use comfortably. And with us working where we've got several school buildings nearby, there's an increased chance that we may need that rifle rated armor. So at any rate, it also includes the external vest carrier. Tom's not here anymore, I'd show it off to you, but most agencies nowadays are wearing what's called a load bearing vest carrier, that all of the gear that's traditionally found on the duty belt is moved up to the vest so that it reduces back problems and stuff like that. So the total cost of that is partially reimbursed through the grant. It's generally 50%, but what we've got left remaining in it is just under 50%. So the total cost of the 3 vests and the carrier and the plates is $76,2632, and we would be eligible for $3,231 back on the grant on that, which would bring that overall cost down to just under $4,400 after reimbursement on that. So, any questions?
Is that each or together?
Oh, no, that's all 3 of them.
I have a question.
Sure.
What contributes to the expiration of a vest?
The manufacturer of every reputable vest manufacturer in the land puts an expiration date on it. That is, now I'm not a vest salesman, but my understanding is the reason that they do it is primarily, sweat and use causes the ballistic fibers, the material to break down over time. And, with that, they're not willing to guarantee. They're not willing to guarantee their product beyond 5 years of normal use. So it's kind of a liability thing for the manufacturer. And on top of that, when you're talking about life-saving garments, you really don't want to wear them forever. But much like milk, a ballistic vest doesn't know when it expires, it just does. But again, when we're talking about life-saving stuff, why take a chance? So.
Car seats, aren't they 5 years now too?
Yeah, and I really don't get that one. Now, ballistic vest I can kind of get. Now, if Andrew was here, he's a certified car seat expert person. He could explain to you why, but, I don't know.
I strongly suspect it relates to a 5-year statute of limitations, but that's just me.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. So on the funds that we receive back, does that then go back into that, line that we've spent the money out of so that we then have a little extra money to spend on
That-
more equipment, training?
That's my question.
That's a question for her. So.
Okay,
Okay, so what he's talking about is the BBP grant.
Right.
Last year, we got $2,287.78. This next fiscal year, I budgeted the same amount. Because I don't know what we're getting back until it actually pops up on my screen and says, you have this money waiting for you. So yes, it does go back into a revenue line. The expense line that he'll be expending these out of his uniforms and equipment, which he budgeted $13,000 for. And I'll have to go back and look at I don't have the detail in front of me as far as what he budgeted for ballistic vests. We did detail on that. I believe it was $10,000 for uniforms and $3,000 for vests. So depending on what is spent on uniforms, this fiscal year, we may have to do an adjustment. But hopefully we need to stay in that $13,000 range because we really don't have a lot of wiggle room this budget year. So in short, yes, the grant does go back into the police revenue line, 4332 for the BBP grant. But because everything comes out of general revenue for the police department, it doesn't really make their revenue stream coming in doesn't put a dent in their expenditures going out.
but they would have that available to spend for uniforms or what, if they needed it. It
Well,
would go back into,
it goes back into revenue. They had, so this year they're projected to make $8,000 in revenue. Their budget is $850,000.
right,
So it would definitely help the revenue stream as far as getting that grant money back, but it's not really in the big picture, it doesn't really affect that much.
I guess I'm just not looking at it as a revenue, I'm looking at it as we've saved money. So if we were to spend, you know, if we were to get, if we were to get, you know, a discount, then we would spend less out of that line. And so there would be more left in there than we anticipated. So just getting a grant reimbursement for that specific item, in my mind, is the same thing. We've saved money, so that line should.
Well, you are saving money, and so,
Right.
so
It should
Yes.
go back to that line,
It,
is what I'm thinking.
yeah, you are saving money, so the reduced cost of the expense of the vest saves you money out of that expense.
Right.
The detail for that line, however, doesn't allot for that amount to be spent on vests. And so what I'm saying is that as a whole, that line is 13,000. If the police department spends, let's say, $5,000 on vests, then that is gonna leave just those X amount of dollars for uniforms. Versus,
But they're actually spending less because they're not having, I mean, they have to come up with it up front, but some of that money's coming back, so.
So the long and short of it is she's budgeted 13,000, which was the request made by Gabe. She's already budgeted the 2,100 in revenue, which is just carryover from last year. It doesn't offset the expense line. If the board wishes it to offset the expense line, that might be a budget amendment that would be made. But what she's indicating is we've already accounted for those revenues in terms of the overall general fund budget
Yeah.
as a whole. So I mean, you'd be taking, well, yes, he is getting a grant back, you would potentially be taking that money away from other general fund needs in order to reallocate further expense to the police department. Not saying it can't be done, but he's got 13,000, he's spending 7 in order to get that two grand back. Either way, if he ends up going over that 13, that's basically what you're saying, is okay,
Yeah.
we save money, so let's give him 15 instead of 13, is what that would look like on a budget perspective from an expense line account.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an incentive to me, if you ask for a grant and you receive it, that you get the benefit from it. So in this case, it kind of looks like he's not getting the
Well, in
benefit.
short, we'd have to come back with a budget amendment and make that line 15,000 instead of 13 in order for that to be.
I think we need
What
to
you're getting at.
keep that in mind when we get toward the end of the fiscal year and we see what the needs are. If there's something else that comes up.
I think the chief would remind us.
and,
Well, yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
and I would like to add that line of thinking is correct when it's a single fund, operating on a single revenue stream. So like the park, for example, has a single revenue stream for the park tax. And so the grants that may be pursued by the park board or the public works director, that money goes directly to the park, into that park revenue stream, and ultimately supplements their bottom line. In this particular fund, the revenue streams are all pulled together between administration, which is taxes, community development, and police. And so each expense out of those departments grab money out of that bucket to be able to manage their departments. So in this particular instance, he takes up, the police department takes up over 50% of our revenue stream coming in. So it's great if they get anything back, but it's really just continuing to keep that bucket to where the other departments and them can function. It's not, yes, he's gonna spend $7,000 and he may get $3,000 back, but his budget is only $13,000. And that's what he estimated to be able to replace vests and uniforms. Anything over that is really gonna be taking out of that bucket. Because we've already accounted for it being brought in with the budget.
okay.
I agree with Alderwoman Old in that I think we should find ways to incentivize city employees, and if you do the work of going out and finding a grant and getting it, that we should remember that, find a way to document it and remember it, even if maybe from the accounting perspective, it's not line by line, but that we should reward people for that. Somehow.
I mean, they gave a pretty big budget increase this year.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the way things turned out this year.
Can I get a motion approving a resolution authorizing the purchase of ballistic vests for the police department, please?
I'll make the motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Ogle?
Aye.
A resolution entering into a renewal agreement with Gilmore Lawn and Land, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Before you is a agenda item for the 2020 FY 24 mowing contract or agreement rather renewal. If you'll recall, last year we did a bid process for mowing services throughout the city. Gilmore Lawn and Land was awarded that bid. That process had, that agreement had up to two renewal options, up to two one-year renewal options at the agreement of both parties. This is the first of those, first year of agreement. Renewal, excuse me, this is the first renewal option. Are there any questions? Or can I sit down?
Can you speak to just how many acres they mow in general?
No, I've never
No.
put pen to paper to see how many acres it is.
How
The
many-
way that bid was set up was that we utilized the parcel viewer and spelled out, designated each area that was owned by the city and what those mowing requirements would be. And that was included in that packet, but I did not do, I can, if you give me time, I can get it for you.
That's okay. How about number of properties or number of locations, any kind of,
Off
Is
the
there
top
a
of my
limit
head,
of what they
Say all
mow?
told, you're between 15 and 20 acres, I mean, the park's what, 10?
something to that
And you got
effect.
another 2-acre park.
Yep, the wastewater treatment plant. They were in that agreement, all the properties were separated so that billing was handled for the appropriate party. For example, in the agreement, there's a $300 annual or monthly expense for a 6-month contract of $1,800 for that expense that comes out of general revenue. That was for this property along with the old recycle lot back here at Bass and Redbud. The water department, the property around it is paid for by water. Wastewater treatment plants paid for out of sewer. Parks has the lion's share, of course, because they have the most green space throughout town with the designated park areas.
very good, roundabout?
Roundabout is handled by APW crew along with our facility and the highway, the quadrants at the overpass.
Any other questions? No? I get a motion approving resolution entering into a renewal agreement with Gilmore Lawn and Land.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
And Alderman Frank?
Aye.
Before we go to reports, you wanna do the swearing in?
Where would you like to do that?
We'll do it in front of you. So when you in front of the front, it's gonna say pictures.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that you possess all of the qualifications of alderman as described by law, that you will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Missouri, the provisions of all laws of this state affecting citizens of this class and the ordinances of the city of Ashland, and faithfully demean yourself by law.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't find it. You sign?
Give that to me.
Yeah, they said we could do whatever we wanted to do. That's the one they sent us. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, he went to the potty break.
But. I don't wanna pay.
Is that rain?
Everybody does.
Something they don't call.
Now you don't have to worry, your yard's not.
We don't have,
$50.
I don't know.
I'll think more. You won't even give me much.
I'd have to get that approved through the park board.
Okay. I'll think more about it.
He's meaner.
Eat it quickly.
He's meaner.
Earth Day.
Okay, Kyle. I reset that camera and see if there's anything you can do here. Oh, it froze. Only the best.
I mean, we have in-house engineers.
Are you ready? Alright, moving on to reports. Mayor report, Alderman, if you would tell the park board, I appreciate the Gaga ball court or arena, whatever. Several kids from our school have been playing in it. It's awesome, it's pretty neat.
That was a Eagle Scout project.
Yes, well, thank them for it, I appreciate that. Ball field, about when will that be done?
We're hopeful that it will be completed within a month from today. I spoke with staff about that yesterday. We started doing some work over there, but are currently stymied by locates. And as luck would have it, it looks like we're gonna get some rain at the end of this week. So once our locate's clear, it's gonna be too muddy to dig anyways. There really isn't a whole lot left to do on the project. We need to pour some concrete and install some stormwater structures and then dress up the infield.
Would that prohibit anybody to play on it now? Or, I mean, is there?
One of the dugouts is currently closed because part of the floor had settled over the years and the concrete had broken because apparently many moons ago, it was actually the dugouts were lower than they are now, so they were built over and there was a gap causing one of the floors to settle and have a large crack. So we are planning to try and pour concrete next week to make repairs to that dugout, add some wing walls to help guide runoff, and then begin to get the viewing area set up with, where it will be an all concrete pad with French drain that goes around the perimeter of the backstop to divert water around the infield. Currently, as far as use of the actual field, it's really no different than it was in the past. But we are going to need to do some grading work next week to where the infield meets the outfield. That is built up over the years and doesn't allow any water runoff to exit the infield. Hence another reason why the infield is always so muddy. So that needs to be excavated probably to the tune of almost a foot to get proper fall, to get that water to drain away.
Okay. So I'll tell the coach to hold off for a little bit.
Ideally, we're hopeful to have it complete within a month.
And my last thing is, Kyle, when were you looking in the flagpole? And is that James too?
James.
We've
talked about
Mr. Creel.
if and how and where. There's not really necessarily a good spot at this particular property. Perhaps we can recycle the concrete pad that's out back. Certainly wouldn't really work on the front of the building here, but put it up top, but there's not really easy access up onto that parapet to take it down and put it up, so. It's not gonna happen this year. We just approved the budget and it definitely wasn't in there, so.
She said we're not spending any money after today. So we're done.
All everybody wants to do is spend money.
We're living off credit cards.
Yeah, there you go. Moving on to city administrator report, please.
Mainly just gonna run through the events, the Chamber Day events this week. The YMCA Chamber Barbecue got moved to tomorrow due to the weather that's anticipated on Thursday. Starts at 5 o'clock at the YMCA. Leadership breakfast got, that's Thursday morning, 7:15, $15 person at the door. Chamber happy hour on Friday evening at 4:30 at Woody's. You need RSVP for that one, so if you're interested in attending, let me know. They're doing drinks and pizza for chamber members and That would be us, so we're entitled to go to that. Then the Earth Day community cleanup on Saturday, that'll be 8 AM, starting at the middle school, so. Other than that, there are a few other events that came out in the most recent newsletter. This Friday, they'll be doing the ribbon cutting for the new Angel & Co. building. ABC has their Kentucky Derby party on May 6th. It's gonna be down at Eagle Knoll, so feel free to look into more information on that if that is something of interest. That's really the main ones in here.
I'm sorry?
You bring in the lanterns?
Lanterns? If I can find some, sure.
And yeah, there was no lanterns. Moving on to city attorney report.
Yes, first, thank you all very much for your patience last week when I was distracted. The jury trial went well, in that the bad guys pled guilty the day before it happened. So they capitulated, that was great. I got my Santa wish list of probation options and big fines and all manner of nasty strings for them. I wanted to tell you all about a CaseNet thing has changed. On July 1, CaseNet will change so that members of the public can see everything. Right now, level 1 is what public is. You can see like docket entries, but you can't open the documents. Level 2 is what lawyers have, and we can open up the documents. Everybody will be able to open the documents on July 1. This does not apply to old stuff. You can't look up a divorce proceeding from your neighbor, but after July 1, everybody will. There are some exceptions for, minors in criminal cases, but generally speaking, anybody will be able to look it up. It becomes incumbent upon lawyers and litigants to redact personal information. And so as a city, if we have lawsuits or nuisance complaints or criminal stuff, all of that, it becomes our responsibility to redact out social security numbers, identifying information, stuff for minors, etc. There's lots of trainings about this. This will happen in July, but I wanted to bring it to your attention now because it's a big deal. People are really going to be using this, and there will no doubt be mistakes here and there, but I wanted to put it on your all's radar. I don't know how many cases you all file with your city prosecutor or what kind of civil litigation you have, but this will become relevant to all of that. So just be aware, because now, arguably, the security features prevent people from getting that, but now, after July 1, you can see all that stuff, and it needs to be properly redacted. So that's my city attorney report.
Do you have any idea if there's a mistake made and something's not redacted that should be, and then we're notified after the fact, how that, can that be corrected, or is it just out there forever?
I mean,
or is it a big...
I'll be candid with you, I haven't gone to the training yet, but I'm virtually certain what will happen is, the good news is it'll be easy to fix. You left a social security number in a stack of documents. But the bad news, you would probably figure that out because somebody got mad and discovered it, and that would not be great. And again, they're not gonna do this for a lot of certain categories of things, but the thing that will happen will be like domestic relations cases. People make all sorts of nasty allegations in their divorce proceeding. Right now, you can't see that unless you're a lawyer. Everybody will be able to see that now. So, anywho, that will happen. The other thing, in shameless bragging, my article got published by the Municipal League magazine, which came out yesterday. So, yeah.
And one more thing on, congratulations, and
Thank
one
you.
more thing on the redactions. I don't know if we would do any of that internally, but if so, I would recommend some sort of training. It sounds really, really silly, but I think it was a Rudy Giuliani thing, and it got filed in federal court. And rather than actually using redaction software, they highlighted it and just colored it in black, like with the paint bucket, and so then someone just Control-A, pasted it into another document, took the paint off, and read the entire document, because they didn't know how to properly redact. So there is, with software, people get confused about what redaction actually means, and there are programs that actually, erase it as opposed to cover it up to where you can then uncover it. So it has been in very high profile things, people have really messed it up, so it is serious. So if we're gonna do any of the redaction in-house,
And we will.
should, we should be, but outside of lawyers, we should have training. And the proper software.
Like the police and your prosecutor already used like victim information, juvenile stuff information, but even then it occasionally gets, slipped through. But for instance, if we had a nuisance law action, filed somebody, or for dangerous building or something like that, and got into the particulars of who the person was, that's an example of where you might inadvertently have a problem, so.
For
Good
those of us
news.
who spent many hours in a copier with a black Sharpie.
Yeah.
In the olden days. It's much different. But yes, we should take that very seriously.
Of
It's a big
course.
change.
That's it, yes, sir.
Public Works Director, monthly report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just gonna hit on a couple of highlights. The TAP grant project is currently underway. Engineering work began earlier this week. Perry Ave, I know this is gonna shock everybody, we are still waiting for approval to go out to bid. Billy Joe Sapp project is complete. Grade B. We are currently looking at, the options for the next stormwater project to be tackled during FY '24, which is phase 1 of the Oak Street stormwater improvements. Ball field remodel, we've already talked about that. On April 22nd, citywide cleanup, the Ashland community team is gonna start the process of honeysuckle removal from the northeast corner of the park, and several members of the park board will be conducting a park cleanup day also. And regarding, I don't know why it says sanitary sewer, it should say facilities, but the generator grant, I was notified the other day that we have officially been approved for that grant. It's a 90% grant, and I will be attending grant administration training in the next week or so with RPC staff to get that project implemented.
Any questions for James? Moving on to Community Development Director, monthly report.
I say, well, first off, I've been working in a couple neighborhoods on getting the streets cleaned up, so you may get some calls from unhappy builders.
Especially on Fridays.
I apologize for Friday. I wasn't thinking. I don't even know what to say to that. But other than that, does anybody have any questions?
What do you mean by cleanup? What kind of cleanup are we talking about?
In the streets?
Yeah, just like,
Mud.
oh, okay.
Nails.
Not nails or something like
Screws.
that.
Oh, no.
That's
only
great.
gravel. We had 3 complaints today, just in Forest Park.
Okay.
And 2 of them were nails and screws. And I don't want to throw out the nuclear option, but I don't want to use it. But they've already been informed that it is a possibility.
Remind me what the nuclear option is.
DNR.
Are they like just shooting the nails out in the parking lot and on the street?
It's guys, they pull up and they get stuff out of the back of the truck and they just have loose things, or they're loading their gun and a couple of clips fall out. Like that. But they just don't clean up at the end of the day. And the biggest hurdle is getting them to see that as a problem. Currently, they do not. So.
How else could we fix it? How else could we fix it?
Could it be like a ticket for littering or something?
Well, that's a discussion for maybe after the meeting.
He said no. I mean, is there, instead of backing up on the street and unloading all the stuff right there on the street, I mean, could they pull into the gravel driveway
So
and
this-
unload there? I mean,
This all goes back to the whole trailer on the street, dumpster on the street, dumpster in the yard. I always built with a dumpster in the yard. It's just what it was. We were not allowed to put them on the street in St. Louis County, so it just wasn't even a possibility. Trailers could not be on the street. Fire truck drives through, can't get through, whole neighborhood shuts down. So they had options. I don't know exactly what our options are, but, and, I mean, I don't wanna be mean about it, but it's getting a little out of control.
Yeah.
Cause they are neighborhoods. People live there, people walk their dogs on these streets, kids play, not on the streets or in the streets, hopefully, but, they ride their bikes on the streets and they would easily go through a bike tire.
They go through police car tires too.
well, I mean, I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying about the DNR thing, but, I mean, if we can give them a solution or maybe a fix, say, hey, this is what you can do going forward, this will help curb this problem.
The biggest issue is getting them to see that it is a problem, which do not think it's an issue.
Well,
They
they
cannot
thought that
think the streets
increase
are
in prices on the permitting was a problem, so if you charge them, it starts costing them some money, then they're gonna think it's a problem. Right?
We should write them a whole stack of tickets.
He was looking into nuisance abatement process for him earlier today, so he'll be talking with Todd to figure out his options.
Is it is it a repeat offender then, I assume? Like it's the
Yes.
same people? Yeah, okay,
It's a couple of them
all right.
that are told on a weekly basis.
Roofers have those magnet roller things that they roll around to pick up things. Do they have that? I mean, I don't know anything about construction, zero. And I know that
Well, if they don't see that it's a problem, they probably don't have that.
Right.
Stack of tickets.
I mean, it blows my mind, the guys that will park their trucks on a driveway where I clearly see, and that's not in the streets, that's not our problem. But I clearly see nails and screws on the driveway, and the construction guys are parking the truck there, which just blows my mind. So what do you do with that, right? I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
Because eventually it's gonna rain, and that's gonna push it out in the street, and that does become a problem.
Well, yes, for us, but in the meantime, I mean, they've gotta be getting nails and screws in their tires just parking in the driveway. See, the thing there.
Put magnets in the bottom of our plows. And hover.
No, I guess, there's a thing for this.
They,
Don't worry.
Oh, you're
no, there are wheel
Small police
magnets,
car.
but it takes time.
Stack of tickets. $50 a pop? Yes. Interest for, yes.
Change your phone number, give it to Todd.
I don't have a problem giving out my phone number. Actually, one of them, I won't name any names, but I've been trying to get back in contact with him, but he won't talk to me, so.
I also have a question as we get ready for the summer months. Remind me of the rules for RVs, like where they can be parked and,
Backyards out of sight preferably.
but like if they're not attached to your truck and
Are
it's
we-
like just parked in your yard.
Are you talking about a camping trailer or an RV, as
Sorry.
in Cousin Eddie, that there's an RV?
I think
Is it-
it's
is it
like a
self-driven
trailer.
A licensed motor vehicle or a trailer?
A trailer.
Trailer has to be attached to a tow vehicle or on private property.
All right, we should start issuing tickets for that too.
The ones on the street or in the driveway?
Or like the yard.
If it's on private property, then it's legal.
In
If
the
it's
yard.
parked in the
It's-
street, it has to be
it's a
licensed
neighborhood
and
company.
attached to a tow vehicle.
That's for campers and boats.
Campers, boats, flatbed trailers, dump trailers.
You don't
It
wanna
can't
be
be-
too
If it's in the
over
yard, I think that has to be covered by an HOA.
Okay. But it can't be on the street. Got it. Okay.
Unless it's attached to the tow vehicle.
Got it.
So if Tom is getting tire damage from the inadequate cleanup over at Forest Park, why aren't we billing that neighbor or
Well,
that?
how do we prove that it's,
which one it was.
yeah, I mean, it could be any of the 9 billion subdivisions that are under construction in Ashland. I mean, chances are it's probably that one, but how,
They're not done.
between him and Andrew, we either replaced or patched, I don't know how many tires just this year alone.
A lot.
So,
But I thought they didn't patrol the neighborhoods, how would that?
well, I know, it's crazy how that happens. But,
And I feel bad for the residents, right, because it's their personal money and.
In a city that rhymes with Sedalia, they have code enforcement people. You don't have that, it's a problem. But you can write, it's one of his hats. Okay. They have building permits that are susceptible to revocation, all manner of nasty consequences.
Darren will call him up.
I will. You just give me the number. Okay.
We will talk about it.
Because I don't wanna be overbearing and but I just wish they would understand that these are neighborhoods, they're not construction sites. I don't care if it's Liberty Lane North and it's a phase, no one's living on that street, it doesn't matter. But in Forest Park, every street is occupied by somebody at this point, so.
You could make it like the false fire alarm thing, where some cities, it's like, if the fire alarm gets pulled falsely, like once or twice, okay. But like the third one, it's $100, the fourth one, it's $200, the fifth one.
I'm glad you
So,
bring
like,
that up, that's an ordinance I actually
You
want to get passed in
get,
Ashland.
So the
2
recipe.
flat tires a month and no additional fees, but then 5 flat tires a month, and every builder in the city gets $100 added onto their permit fee, so everybody worked together on cleanup.
We're gonna start doing forensic analysis, so all the screws that come out of our tires, and we're gonna figure out who pulled tank permits that week. Who was pulling a roofing permit.
And maybe, are they getting, when they pull their, so when we're issuing the permits though also, are we giving them information saying, hey, you're expected to clean up?
So.
All the builders know. I mean, they claim I've singled them out, I've told every single one of them, I tell every single one of them, talk to all the other builders, I mean, you know them.
So, you send out a violation letter, hey, quit it. I mean it. Then you give a ticket, and they go to court, and they don't care, and they get the very nasty surprise. In this state, a legal entity can only be represented in court by an attorney. You can't plead guilty to an LLC, even if you own it. You have to hire a lawyer to come in there and plead guilty for the $50 ticket. It sucks. It's an expense, it's inconvenient, it's a problem. The lawyer's fee is more than the fine. The repeat violators get an abatement deal. We will come pick up your screws for you at the low, low rate of $500 an hour. Things like that tend to work.
Where'd that revenue go?
Tires. It would go to a street
Tires.
sweeper, I think, is what would be the best.
It sounds like we tried to have conversations with the repeat offenders, and so it sounds like we need to take it to the next level. I think we're probably in agreement on that.
Happy to talk to you and your city prosecutor. Thoughts?
We'll have a discussion.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Moving on to Board of Aldermen report. Alderman Plank.
Yeah, just one thing, just a thank you to the Parks and Rec Department for putting down the mulch in the park today. I assume they got done.
They completed one of the playgrounds. They, were having some issues and difficulties because the increased expense of mulch, elected to go with just a 1-inch coating, enough to do a 1-inch coating over all the playgrounds. And therefore, majority of it has to be applied by hand, otherwise it will mix with the old, and it's kind of unsightly. So they'll be back on it tomorrow and try and finish up with the north playground.
Very good, thank you.
Alderman O.
I had a call today about parking on Red Wing, and I forwarded that information on to Kyle, but just, since we're talking about all these things that make people very unhappy, that's starting to bubble up, is discussions about parking on the street and whether we should be allowed to park on both sides of the street on some of them that are more narrow, and what we need to do, and safety and all that, so. That's my report.
Thank you. Alderman Bell.
No report.
Alderman Wilson.
No report.
And Alderman Lewis.
I did have one call about, ironically, the camper in the yard. And I think they were also parking their dually in the yard. They weren't connected, but I think we've answered that question tonight, that it was on their own front yard, so they weren't violating it.
Unless it's up on blocks and it's constituted as a nuisance. So
No,
it's-
I
If
think
it's on blocks, it is a nuisance.
If it's a vehicle on blocks, it is a nuisance.
What if it's the camper thing on blocks?
The tire is on the ground.
It's got tires on it still, it's not necessarily on blocks.
I'll send you a picture of it.
It's got tire.
Yeah, I say tire, yeah.
It's occupied, but we might have something there.
Oh, if there's somebody's sleeping in it.
So I informed them that there was no violation there. I think they typically take it around to their backyard in the winter months, but they want to keep it handy to hook
Unless
onto
there's
it
an
and use it.
HOA. Or a deed
And
restriction.
I don't think it is, it's down at the end of Justin and the right, what is that, Silverado? Is that-
Are these,
May not have an HOA, but you probably have some restricted covenants that say something like that.
Right at the end, right at the end of the cul-de-sac
Oh,
on Silverado.
and for forgive me for not knowing about those new storage, but are any of these new, I mean, are there openings? Like, if you wanted to store your RV, then we've got new storage going in. Are they big enough, are they small
None of
units or
the-
big enough to
None of
hold?
the current ones
Okay,
have RV storage. The one that left is building RV storage,
okay,
or proposing to build RV storage.
okay.
The only other thing I can think of, I don't know if you're all aware that we're working on the yard waste proposal to kind of tweak that a little bit so that it will be a curbside pickup as opposed to having to go to a site. And we've got some real good possibilities brewing, so we'll see if the proposals come in by Thursday,
Yeah.
so.
We'll do a special meeting on Thursday.
Do we
Good
know-
with 3:30 on Thursday,
As long as it's not very long.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
So 3:30 Thursday, special meeting.
None, general comments from the public, any comments? No? Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This day.